Love, live, life. Life can be glorious and hideous. Stick your feet to the ground, but don't think you are counted out. Don't let the wind pull you and tear you apart. Let yourself live freely and love, and you'll be happy. No limits. Just keep on.
Hey guys, and welcome back to another Iron Will podcast with me, Shane Warner, and
John Chase.
So what this podcast is all about is we are trying to get stories from people that have been through a traumatic experience in their lives and came out a different person.
Yeah, they have all created an iron will. So what is an iron will? A burning determination that cannot be stopped or hindered by anything, willing to do anything to get a desired outcome, extremely resilient. So what we like to say is just keep punching.
Yeah. So sit back and relax, and we're going to start the show.
Yeah, we're excited to hear from you today.
Yeah, I'm excited to be on your podcast. I listened to a bunch of episodes the past couple weeks.
Awesome.
Oh, cool. Right on.
What do you think about him?
I really like it. I like the overall theme of it.
Yeah.
I've turned down a lot of podcasts because I didn't think the message kind of jived with what I was doing. But when I saw your guys' podcast, I was like, oh, hell yeah.
So today we have on the podcast with us Ethan Schmidt, and his name on Instagram is Hybrid Runner. And that's kind of why I started following him, is to watch his progress with running. He's actually from Arizona, and so he runs out in the freaking heat and
Land
whatever.
of the heat.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm just going to have Ethan kind of introduce himself and share his background a little bit, and then we'll just go from there. So
Awesome.
Go ahead, Ethan. And
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Yeah, my name is Ethan Schmidt. I'm on Instagram as Hybrid Runner, and I grew up in a small town called Havre de Grace, Maryland. Population's like 10,000 people. Low income.
Pretty small. What was it called again?
Havre de Grace, Maryland.
Havre de Grace. Okay.
Yeah, it's like a
Never heard
French
of it.
name.
yeah.
Yeah. Very small town. But yeah, it was just north of Baltimore. And I grew up in a pretty normal household. No like crazy traumatic experiences when I was very young or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I always remember kind of growing up, I was like just always a very insecure person. I thought very, very, very low of myself. And I remember this from a young age. And I started like exhibiting kind of behaviors of addiction before I even attempted drugs. Like, so like I would drink like a 12-pack of sodas in one sitting and stuff like that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Just feel, I can feel how my gut would feel with all that. Like, oh.
Yeah. And then I would binge eat on top of that. So it was like, it was horrible. But, and I destroyed my insides. I ended up developing like ulcerative colitis at the age of like 10 years old. Pre-cancer in my esophagus, like pre-cancer cells. And, that's like really, in hindsight, that's when I really should have known that I had the traits of addiction, basically.
Yeah, sure. Well, you don't think of that when you're so young. I mean, parents wouldn't think of that either. They're just like, "Hey, get a hold of yourself, kid." But you don't think, you're not thinking in terms of, "Oh, he's an addict."
Yeah, you don't really look for those signs in a young kid. Yeah.
But that's where things develop.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. And then, so about 10 years old is when I started having those stomach issues. And then I remember about, I want to say like about 12 or 13 years old, I received an injury to my head. Someone threw like a metal pole at me, and it cut deep into my head. Whoa. And I actually got prescribed Percocets for the first time.
Okay.
After that, I had to get stitches and all that.
At what, 13?
Yeah, like I think 13? It was like 13. Yeah.
Not a good idea to give kids Percocet. No. But I mean, I get it. You got to deal with the pain, but
Yeah, it was, and that's when I really found out that I loved opiates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was like really my first experience with opiates. It was crazy, but it just made me feel like, remember how I said I felt like insecure all the time and I felt really low of myself. opiates took that away immediately.
Yep.
Yeah.
That
So not only is it taking away the pain, it's also taking away like
it's
the
taking
rooted
away the anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The feelings you have about yourself and your world around you. Yeah.
Yep. And it was looking back, that was like the flashpoint, honestly. And then by the age of 14, I'm in middle school, I believe like maybe 7th or 8th grade. I was offered more Percocets, and I remember how it made me feel, and I was like, oh hell yeah. So that's like really when it started getting out of control. I was like middle school, 14 years old.
Yeah, and you have a prescription.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's like an unlimited opiates, and it's a dangerous path.
And that was like back in the time when I guess doctors didn't really understand how addictive opiates were, or like these type of opiates.
Sure.
So they hand them to you like candy. I remember at like the age of like 16, I was in a full withdrawal, and my parents took me to the hospital, and they didn't know at the time. And I was just puking and the whole withdrawal thing. And then they ended up giving me morphine for it. So it was like, so they were just handing it out like candy back then. It was crazy.
Yeah. That's insane.
Yeah, that is crazy. Can I backtrack just a tiny bit?
Yeah,
Who
definitely.
the hell is throwing a pole at your head?
Yeah. Well, let's get into that a little bit.
Like who's throwing it? Hey, I'm going to throw this pole into this guy's head.
Skipped right over that.
She was actually my best friend at the time too.
Okay.
But we used to like play in the woods near my house and like throw sticks at each other and pretend we were like playing war and stuff like that.
Yeah, we all did that, yeah.
Yep. And the next thing I knew, she picked up a metal pole, and I saw it smack the tree in front of me, and it whipped around and just nailed me in the head.
Oh.
And then I looked down, and my hands were cupped, and they were filled with blood immediately.
Jeez.
That's
crazy.
And she ran and left me there.
She's like, oh, no.
Yeah.
She was like, screw this.
She went to get help.
Yeah. Shane just put his fingers up in quotation marks. I'm going to go get help. He slipped and fell on the pole, I swear.
He doesn't remember because he got hit in the head.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like really when it first started, and then through high school, I mean, I was like literally the worst kid ever. Between acting out in class for attention, because that's when I really started to do certain things like that. I started at first I was really insecure, and then and I wanted to be like a chameleon, but then it developed into I wanted attention from everybody.
Yeah,
right.
And it was usually negative attention that I sought out by being like bad and stuff like that. And just the next 4 years I'd come into school just higher than crap, and I don't understand how my teachers didn't notice or anything like that. I think my mom actually worked in the school, and I think towards the my senior year she started to notice I was coming in high every morning, and I guess maybe she just like assumed it was something small like weed or something like that, but it was pills. And I remember my senior year, or no, the year after my senior year, I tried in 2011. I tried my first little bit of heroin, and it was seriously off to the races after that. It was like Percocets, but times 1,000. I thought it was like the answer to all my problems.
And
that's a really hard path to come back from.
And it ended up being the source of all your problems, not the solution.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At first, it like entices you. It's like you feel good. Yeah. No one notices you're getting high. You seem like you're fairly normal. And then by the time it has you gripped and you realize that like, whoa, this is a problem. A lot of times it's almost too late. I mean,
did you have a job to pay for the heroin, or I just want to understand how you were getting access to this. So
early in my addiction, my parents actually loaned me a lot of money. I was fresh out of trade school, so like they kind of figured I was just trying to get on my feet and rolling. So they were loaning me a lot of money, and then they started realizing like, what the hell is he spending all this money on? So they stopped giving me money, and that's when I started kind of stealing a lot. Like I would steal from Home Depot, Walmart. And then once that gravy train kind of ran dry, it became armed robberies, robbing gas stations in Baltimore, robbing the dealers.
that's a dangerous place to be anyway, you know?
Oh yeah.
You always see Baltimore on the news, and it's nothing good.
Yeah.
Yep. I actually ended up about 3 years later choosing to be homeless down there because I couldn't afford the gas to get back and forth so I could go pick up my drugs. So I chose to just park my truck on a street, and I slept in my truck every night.
Isn't it crazy? It's crazy that, so when people listen to this, if they've never experienced this kind of a thing, it's hard for people to understand, like, well, why would he decide to do that?
Yeah.
Why would he decide to, when a drug has its grips on you, like you mentioned, grips on you, it's not like you're at this point where you're consciously choosing, like, I want to be homeless and I want to be a loser and I want to be, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not, it's more like, I need my fix.
Yes.
I need my drug because it's going to make me feel better, and nothing else matters.
Yep.
So the decision isn't based off of like what you don't want, it's based off of what you want.
Yeah.
And what your body's craving and needs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
like your body convinces you need that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one like in the right mindset would want that for themselves, and you know.
Oh yeah, not at all.
And it's like, I think what John was just getting at is, like, it's crazy how that drug or whatever can take a hold on you and just like grip your soul almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Oh yeah.
Heroin and meth. I mean, those are the ones that we've listened to a lot of people, and you know, I've had a lot of experience in friends and things like that have used a lot of that, and that's exactly what it is. It like grips onto their soul.
Yeah.
And it's almost like nothing else matters. They'll steal from their parents. They'll steal.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
And
even from their own
isn't it
children.
crazy how, like, at first you're stealing from your parents, like, you're not really stealing from them, but you're
Like, well, they gave me
pretty
this
much
money.
are. Yeah,
you're justifying it.
Then you
Exactly.
realize that you have to steal from other people. I don't know. It's a vicious cycle, man.
Oh yeah. It's a very slippery slope.
Yeah.
And like you said, just to drive the point home, it all started with just
Yeah.
just a simple thing, something that was prescribed to you. You were injured. You know, it's so easy to jump into that.
And the other important thing is, you said at first you grew up in a regular family.
It's not like you were beaten, abused.
This can happen to anyone, is what I'm saying.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, I grew up in a middle income neighborhood. I never really like had any true adversity in my life, so I can't blame any of that. You know what I mean? It was all me. It comes down to me at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So
That's like,
so what would you tell you? Go ahead and finish, and then I'll remember what I was going to ask you.
oh, I was just gonna say, like, I remember my first day in rehab, my counselor was like, he told me like to list off the reasons that I thought made me get high, and he was like, just so you know, people go through 100 times worse and never get high about it. He said the problem is you. It's not your problems. It's you.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. And what good counselor right there.
Oh yeah.
Well, just helping you understand that you need to accept accountability for it, ownership for it.
Yep.
So I was going to ask so when it's almost like we have this draw to feel better about ourselves and to have a confident self-esteem and all that kind of stuff. And if you really root down to where it really started was that the self-esteem, all that.
Yep.
And as a parent, it's hard because I have 6 daughters. It's hard to recognize when your child is going through a low self-esteem like time period. You know what I mean? Because you want to catch it before they ever indulge into something to solve that self-esteem problem.
They're probably a lot different at home, you know?
Oh, yeah, for sure. How they act around you is going to be different than how they act around their friends, how they act in school, how they, you know what I mean, trying to get that attention, trying to fit in, there's things that all of us have experienced. But if you were, so here's my question for you, Ethan, is if you were to your age now, what you've learned now, the wisdom you've gained now, saw your former self acting out in school, what would you tell yourself?